Thanks for being here. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Christoph Meier. I'm from Swiss Center for Innovations in Learning at the University of St. Gallen. And we agreed to have a session this morning on the kind of trend research that we've been doing in the last couple of years at SCIL. We're looking, actually this is going to have two parts, this session. The first part is I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we did the trend research in the past, and I've been asked to present some of the results of the last survey, which was done in 2015. And then we'll look forward. We want to relaunch these surveys, and we will look at what's the landscape of surveys that is out there, and what does make sense to do in the future. So these are the two parts. You have handouts, I think. There's one small one page printed on 2 pages because the print or the slide is very small, fine print to read. So I figured it would be good for you to have this when we get to that. And the other is a list of candidate items to be included in the survey, and I would like to discuss this with you. Okay. So first of all, a little bit about us. As I said, we're from St. Gallen. We're affiliated with the part of the Institute of Business Education and Educational Management at the University of St. Gallen. We're a small team, as you can see. We have 3 areas we're active in. We offer courses for learning professionals for their further education. We do consulting work, and we do a little bit of research. And some of that research is the trend studies, and I'm going to talk to you about this. We see ourselves sort of in between learning, management, and innovation. This is where we're coming from. The University of St. Gallen is a business school. It's not a full university. It doesn't have medicine and philosophy and engineering and all these other subjects. It's very much focused on management, economics, and law. So it's a bit of a very focused institution. So this is where we are. Our focus is digital transformation in learning and development. This is a hot topic, as you know, in many businesses throughout, in many industry sectors. So we decided to focus on that. What do? We provide programs, further education programs on educational management, Bildungsmanagement. We will start a new program on digital education next year. That's sort of the education or training part. We are doing innovation circles. This is a setup where we invite 10 partners to join us for 1 year, and we work on one topic for that year. And this is also the reason why I have to leave right after this session, because tonight we're having the meeting for the last, tonight and tomorrow we're meeting for the last workshop in the current innovation circle, which is on digital transformation in learning and development. We have partners like, we have respectable partners in there like Allianz, Bayer, Swisscom, Kühne & Nagel, so in the German-speaking world, well-respected partners. And we've been doing these innovation circles for 5 to 6 years. You can see here the topics that we've been working on. We do in-house projects, and we do trend research, and some research that sometimes comes out of our PhD students' work. For example, this report, this is the last report on gamification and motivation design. So this basically is what we're doing. I never get to show this one at the end, so I'll show it right now. If you want to be in touch, and I very much would like you to be in touch, please contact me on LinkedIn. I have some business cards if you want to take some, but should be sufficient for this small group. Right, so that's about us. Now let's look at the SCIL trend studies that we did in the last 10 years or so. We started doing this in 2005, 2006, and it's been about 2 questions really. What are the challenges for corporate training and development professionals? And we asked 2 questions. What is the importance of the topics that we cover, and where are you in terms of making this happen, of realizing this? So when we ask this, it's always with most questions. It's two aspects. How important is this and where are you on this? You can see the basic model that's behind this. So we're looking at aspects like strategy, didactics, organization, culture, technology, and economy. And the survey has 45 items in it, and we usually have around 120 plus professionals from different companies participating in this survey research. And we're focused on the German-speaking countries, so it's Germany, Austria, Switzerland. And you can see some of the companies that are taking part in this. Here you can see the reports that came out of this, and you can find these on our web pages, all in German, I'm afraid. We don't really have resources to have all our web pages and communication pages in English as well. So, let's look at the last trend study. So on the left-hand side, you can see the topics that we covered. So the question really is about, what are the challenges in designing and implementing effective learning in businesses? And we're looking at strategy and portfolio, the learning design aspects, learning culture and change aspects, learning value aspects, learning leadership, that is the involvement of leaders in the learning and development process, and of course learning professionals, where they are and what they see as their challenges. So last time it was 121 professionals from, I forgot Liechtenstein, sorry about this. No offense intended. So it's Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Liechtenstein. 8 industry sectors, different company sizes, and various management levels. And last time we did the survey was from March to June, and until the report came out, it was by the end of the year 2015. It's an online questionnaire, and it had 134 individual items. So let's look first at some of the results that were coming out of this research. I guess you're interested in this. I have a few pages, some of them in English, some of them in German. I'll talk you through the German parts. So we're always asking about, well, what are the top topics, or the most important topics that you're currently working on, that you currently feel most challenged by? And you can see here the ranking of the topics as it came out in the last survey. So number 1 is designing learning and development initiatives so that they easily transfer and have effect in the place of work. So that is the top priority for learning professionals. And the mean here, you have to look here. So 1 would be very high, 2 is high, and low, 5 would be insignificant. So these are the top 10 items. Number 2 is gearing learning and development initiatives proactively towards the corporate strategy, so having strategy alignment, so that the initiatives actually feed in and support the strategies, the strategic initiatives that are currently in place. Number 3 is having leaders who create and facilitate conditions that support learning. So that's having to do with the big topic of informal learning, which has been a big topic of discussion in the last 10 years or so. So how can you support informal learning, and this is one aspect that we need to do with it. Number 4 is understanding the culture of learning that is actually in place, or that is current in an organization. Number 5 is commitment to roles of leaders as guides in learning. Again, this has to do with the topic of the area of informal learning, so getting leaders to support their employees, their team members to engage in learning activities. Number 6 is linking formal and informal learning in a meaningful manner. Number 7 is involving the learning and development function in strategy implementation. Number 8, conducting strategy-oriented needs analysis with key stakeholders, so not doing needs analysis in any odd way, but to do it really in a strategy-oriented way and to identify the key stakeholders you need to be able, or you need to talk to in order to have that strategy alignment. Number 9, making the business or company a learning organization or contributing to the transformation into a learning organization. And number 10, involving leaders in both formal and informal learning activities. So you can see there's quite a few items having to do with informal learning and quite a few items having to do with strategy and strategic alignment. So far, any surprise to you, or did any items that you expected to be there that you don't see there?
It surprises me that there's no mention of using digital tools, integrating digital learning or building blended learning.
Yeah, we're asking about this as well. It's not a big focus, or it hasn't been a big focus, but we have been asking about what kinds of tools do you employ in blended learning designs, for example. What kinds of elements are there? Yeah, but it's not on the top of the minds of learning professionals in organizations at this point. Today, maybe different again. All right. Then the next slide is we've done sort of a bit of a comparison. What were the top 10 topics sort of in the past studies as well? So this is what this slide is looking at. So you can see the studies here: 2015, 12, 10, 8, and 6. One thing that strikes immediately is that the top 2 items, designing for transfer and aligned training with strategy, they've been on the top of the mind of learning professionals all along. Sometimes being 1, now sometimes being number 2, but these are the top items or top concerns all along. And also when you look at leaders creating, facilitating conditions for learning, supporting learning, so that's a culture item. This has been number 3, ranked number 3 for the last 2 editions of the survey. We didn't ask for that in the early studies, that's why there's this slash. Understanding the culture of learning, that was number 4. It wasn't quite asked the same way in the earlier studies, that's why I had it in brackets, but it was sort of recognized as an important area to deal with before as well. Commitment to the roles of leaders as guides in learning, so that's learning leadership here. It's been, for the last 2 times, it's been in pretty much the same position. Then it was further back, and before it was pretty much in the same position again. Linking formal and informal learning in a meaningful manner. We didn't ask this in the prior studies, so we don't have a comparison here. Involving the learning and development function strategy implementation. Also, there wasn't much change, a little bit of change here, but overall, not too much change. Conducting strategy-oriented needs analysis. Same here, only in the 2008 edition, this was significantly further back at the minds of learning professionals. And make business company a learning organization. Same here for the last 2 editions, but in the prior editions, it was sort of more on the back of the minds of professionals. And the last item involving leaders in both formal and informal learning, the same here, pretty much same. So there isn't too much, or there hasn't been too much change comparing the 2015 edition of the survey with the prior ones. Did you expect anything, is that counterintuitive to your perception of what has been going on in the field, or does it fit your view of the field?
Well, the second one surprises me. I don't understand what they are doing in training and education if it's not aligned to corporate strategy. So what's the question or problem?
Training organizations, I mean, they grow and they persist for a long time, and they carry luggage with them. We've always done this program, there's always been demand for this program, so we continue doing this.
Okay.
And we did a case study with Lufthansa a couple of years back, and they really engaged sort of the strategy alignment part. And in doing so, they discovered that 50% of their offerings had nothing to do with current strategic initiatives. You know, they were just backlog from, you know, we've always done this. There's always been demand for this, people are asking for this, so we continue doing this.
I see. Yeah. And apparently it's hard to let go because it's
well, yes, you're not. It's difficult to, you know, to cut away on a program that is being, yeah, where there's demand for it, and people want to go to it, even if it's not, you know, really closely aligned to any strategic initiative. How would that be in the organization that you know about? Would they be more focused, and the portfolio, would it be more focused and more aligned with strategy than what I've just related, for example, the Lufthansa case?
I think it depends on how far you're away from the top management. And what I mean with that is, looking at our company, I can step in the office of the managing director, so I can ask, okay, what are your plans? But I can imagine that when you, for example, talk with the service manager or sales manager, that they are not aligned, and then you start to develop something that's not needed, top needed as a priority in the company. But yeah, it's also what Peter I asked. Okay, when you develop something and it's not in line with the strategy, why are you developing it then? But I know some cases where it happens. So that's.
And we also support the idea that the closer the learning people are to the management, top management, the higher the chance that their trainings are aligned.
And this also relates to this conduct strategy-oriented needs analysis. So not just, talk to anybody out there in the company and say, what do you need? But to really make sure that you're talking to the right stakeholders in order to get this, to achieve this strategy alignment. So,
I was always wondering, when you look at design for transfer, is it also something you ask what kind of transfer and what kind of design did they use in the company? Or?
What do you mean by what kind of transfer?
Now when you say design for transfer, what do you mean with that?
Well, that the training proves to be effective in the way that people or participants can apply what they've been learning in their jobs. So you can have impact.
Yeah. So they measure the outcome. That's what you.
They don't. Usually they don't measure it. I mean, that's a whole different topic. On what levels do companies evaluate the training? And I mean, this also has been a discussion for 10, 15 years. And it's, we've all these discussions about ROI analysis and these things, but it doesn't happen on a large scale.
No.
Yeah. And apparently that's not a problem.
And
measuring results is not on the list.
Yeah, it's not. It is in the list somewhere, but it's not on the top of the mind of learning professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is one that is in German language. I'm sorry about this. I'll talk you through this real quick. So this is one of the tables that comes out of the research. So we're asking, so is it proactively, are offerings proactively aligned with strategy? And this is about the realization. We were talking about the relevance, now we're talking about realization. So 30% saying yes, we've done this, 16% say we're doing this in the next 6 months. About 40% say within the next half year, 2 years, we're going to do this, and for others it is like a longer term project. So you can see this with strategy implementation, needs analysis, becoming a learning organization, systematic trend observation, being involved in initial phases of strategy and planning processes. So this is fairly high percentage of professions that are not at all involved in these processes. So this says we're never doing this. Looking at the implications of demographic change, again, have a fairly high percentage here that are not at all looking at this. Or again, looking at performance support. Do we provide services in the area of performance support? about 40% say yes, we're already doing this. So this is another type of result where we look at where are you on these topics. We have something on the learning portfolio. We are taking this, we've been taking this as a reference point when we're asking these questions, and we asked, so what does your portfolio look like today, and what is it supposed to look like in 2 years' time? And as you can see, the importance of formal learning activities and offerings and services is expected to decline, and informal learning, social learning, on-demand learning, and career-based learning are expected to become more important.
But there were no issues in the top 10 about how can we, about informal learning.
There were some, yes. Yes, there was the issue of integrating formal and informal learning, and there were a couple of issues or items on the context, creating the context conditions that enable informal learning. So this is about informal learning, mission and readiness. We asked them, so what do you do in terms of informal learning? This also has to do with evaluation. So do you evaluate this at all? Do you monitor informal learning? So we're asking, do you observe it? Yes, 55% saying this is our job today. We have a mandate to do that. But also 60% say we're not really prepared for this. We don't really know how to do this in a good way. Do we support leaders in supporting their teams to do informal learning? Yes, this is our job today, but again, very high percentage saying we're not really prepared to do this in a good way. Do we support employees in informal learning? Yes, this is our job. And here 47% say, so a higher percentage says we are already prepared to do this. Do we design context conditions that support informal learning? Again, about half say this is our job or this is our mandate today. Again, a high proportion saying we're not really ready to do this. And we evaluate informal learning. Quite a few saying this is not our job. This is a task for the future, and we're not ready to do this. We don't know how to do this. And I guess this is pretty much the same picture today. We are involved in different projects, and yeah, it's a continual challenge how to tackle informal learning, how to understand and know about what's happening. Is it effective? Do people get the opportunities they need? Can they take opportunity of the opportunities they have? Can they make profit? Can they profitably use them? And so on and so forth. We asked, for example, also about the role of learning and development, training management. So how do they see themselves as service providers, as change agents, as business partners or providers of new ideas? And you can see some of the changes between 2008 and 2012 and the 2015 result here. So compared to the earlier surveys for 2015, service provider idea became more important. Change agent role was considered to be less important. Business partnership has been going down a little, and being the provider of new ideas has been more or less stable over the last couple of iterations.
I find it quite shocking.
Yeah.
What did you expect?
Well, a provider of services is something, well, you have to provide services, but if you think that's your reason to be, then you won't be able to become a change agent or a business partner. So it's logical that it happens that way. But I don't think it's in line with the 10 most important topics where they say we want to connect to leadership, we want to get their involvement. That's what you do when you're a change agent or a business partner. So.
What is meant by providing services? Which services do they?
Just learning services. So our mission is to provide learning services, so courses, training. That's why we're there. That's why we exist. We provide training. We're a service provider.
Do you have any idea how this
It's fairly evenly split after all. If you look
Yeah,
at
it
this,
is.
there's not huge differences. So
Yeah, the
My-
first one is quite big.
this has been going up. Yes.
Yes.
My understanding is that there's really different orientations out there. So learning and development units have different foci. Some of them are looking at or seeing themselves as service providers. Others are understanding them primarily to be change agents, and so on and so forth. So you get a variety.
But is it incompatible?
I think no. I don't think this is incompatible. It's in this question. It's a matter of so what's top priority, or how do you see? Yeah, how do you see yourself in the first place?
It creates a picture of a rather inwardly focused learning group that's busy with their own products and rather doesn't like to look around and to work and cooperate and involve others.
And I assume that this is the case in quite a few
Yeah.
in quite a few cases in organizations. All right. So we also asked about top future competencies for learning professionals. So you can see here the ones that were ranked top ranked: coaching and consulting competencies, planning and implementing development initiatives, being familiar with social media tools. Here the IT and the new tool aspect comes into play, being able to work with relevant stakeholders and being able to work on change processes. So these were the top, ranked the top competencies for professionals. I'll come back to that topic in a minute. So this has been sort of a view look at the prior SCIL research on trends and importance of trends. Now I'd like to look forward with you. We want to relaunch these trend studies. We haven't done this this year as we had initially planned, because our former director, who was sort of very sort of much driving this, had left us. We had to reshuffle our obligations and tasks and projects, so we didn't get to do it in 2017, but we'd like to. We'll be doing it again in 2018. So with that in mind, we looked at other trend studies, and maybe it's not so bad to read. Maybe you don't need to read the handout that you have. So we've been looking at what others are doing in the area of trend research. And there's a couple of studies that I have identified, and I have listed them here. So it's the Deloitte University Human Capital Trends Study, the ATD State of the Industry Report, CIPD Learning and Development Survey towards Maturity Benchmarking Report, the Financial Times Corporate Learning Pulse, and this is a German one. It's the Michel Medienberatung in Essen. It's Learning Delphi. So what do they look at? What's their focus? Deloitte is pretty much worldwide. They cover 140 countries, and they are very wide in what they look at. This is a human resource study. It's not really focused on learning and development. Learning and development is in there somewhere, but it's not the focus of that research. So you can see the topics that they're looking at, starting from agile organizations, talent acquisition and using intelligent machines and services to do these, performance management, new ways of leading, people analytics, and so on and so forth. The ATD State of the Industry report you're probably familiar with. It's been around for many, many years. It's focused on the US mostly. So they're looking at expenditures and efficiencies. So how many training hours, how much cost per training hour, what formats, so how much e-learning is being implemented. They're looking at key content areas and delivery methods, as I just said. And in 2017, they had a focus on on-the-job learning. So this is the ATD study. The CIPD study, this is mostly focused on the UK. This is about the role of the learning and development function, trends in terms of methods, technologies, contents, technologies, leadership, talent management, development of L&D professionals, impact, and spending. So these are the things that they are looking at. Okay. Towards maturity benchmark, and I have more slides on that afterwards. It's again mostly focused on the UK, but also has some participants from Europe, US, and Asia. So they are looking at resourcing, technologies employed, modalities, expected outcomes, and barriers to change, and also at the tools and tactics to improve efficiency, to tune processes, boost performance, support agility, and influence culture. So these are things that they're looking at. Corporate Learning Pulse by Financial Times, looking at Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. This is mostly about collaboration with business schools and mostly leadership programs that companies do in cooperation with universities. So they are looking at the business relevance of L&D and leadership development, top learning priorities, how to select partners, and impact management. And the Learning Delphi by MMB, this is in the German-speaking area, so they're looking at popular and highly relevant forms of learning, video, mobile, micro, and so on. Commercial success in terms of these forms of learning, learning priorities, topics, and they're also looking at certain conferences that are important in the German-speaking area. So this is sort of the landscape, or a quick look at the landscape of survey research out there. This is a closer look at the Towards Maturity benchmarking report, and it's a very elaborate undertaking. I don't know, do you participate in this? Has any of you participated in this?
I know them.
So they have a model, an impact model, starting with these base aspects, so defining need, understanding learners, working on context, having the work context right, building capability, ensuring engagement, and then demonstrating value. So these are, they call them 6 work streams that L&D has to work on. They have 5 areas of expected outcomes, starting with the most important here: improving efficiency, processes, boosting performance, cultivating agility, and influencing culture. And then they look at the tools and tactics employed to achieve these outcomes. So how do you achieve boosting performance, or how do you achieve influencing culture? So they, for example, conversations, facilitating networking and connections, practicing customer centricity, feedback processes, learning from mistakes. So these are the top tactics that are relevant for achieving these effects or outcomes. Just last night, I don't know whether you've seen that, yesterday the 2017 version of the report was published, and this is a key result of that. So here they also look at so what are the competence areas for learning and development professionals, and they also highlight, well, where's most need of development. And you can see, for example,
still a lot of work to do.
Yeah. So in turn, I think here data analytics is a topic that they see high priority for development. Also facilitating virtual training, virtual classrooms, webinars, but also digital content is in high. They see a high need of development. Facilitating social and collaborative learning also. So you can see some of the areas where they think there's most need for further developing learning professionals. Okay, so relaunching our SCIL trend research. The framework that I showed you initially, that comes from research by Sabine Seufert, who is now our director at the Institute of Business Education and Education Management. She was doing her habilitation research in 2003 onwards, and she was doing Delphi studies on the sustainability of e-learning as an innovation. And out of this research, this orienting framework group that we've been taking as a base for the last years. But we've feel, or my feeling is, and this I'd like to discuss with you, is that today we may have to, or maybe may make sense to work on a different reference framework because times have changed. This was all about sustainability of e-learning as an innovation. I think today it is relevant to look at the business model for learning and development in times of digital change. And what does that mean? Learning and development is a support function, supporting business in various ways, processes, performance, transformation. But learning and development in itself hopefully has a mission statement that it's based on. There's governance, so there's a governance. Hopefully has a vision. But here are the strategic fields of action, and these are there's change here in the current situation. So this has to do with portfolio of products and services, learner experience, revenue and value contribution, and processes, roles, and infrastructures. So why is this relevant to look at? If we look at the change that's currently happening, and we're coming from sort of a business model perspective here, and in the discussion about business models, when you have change not only in one area, but in several areas, you're really talking about a change in business model. It's not just incremental change, you're really talking about significant changes in your business model. So let's look at these portfolio of products and services. There's been this big debate for the last years. We need to shift and move from providing formal training to supporting different forms of learning. Self-directed learning with libraries such as lynda.com and others. Informal learning that's totally self-directed and self-organized, but maybe also facilitated learning in the workplace in the forms of working out loud groups or other things. So there's a wide range of services that can be offered, and people are moving from the left to the right. There's this debate about, well, what are the competencies that are relevant in times of digital change? Transformational competencies, innovation competencies, IT excellence, customer centricity, all these are coming up as topics. So as topics, and companies are looking at, well, what exactly are the so-called digital competencies that we need to develop? So this is a challenge for the professionals. Learner experience, so things have going mobile and are further going mobile. Video is playing a big role, but also other things are happening here. Learning with bots. Any of you having tested Duolingo bots? You've done, Patrick?
Sure.
Okay, because I can't get it to start. I'd like to talk to you how you get it to start. I can't get there. I've written to Duolingo, please help me. They haven't answered yet. So, using using algorithms and bots in various ways to support learning activities.
And what does Duolingo promise that the bots will do?
These are supposedly not scripted bots, but they do real-time language processing, so you can talk to a cab driver in Spanish. Okay. And the dialogue is emergent. It's not scripted. Okay. So you can practice your starting Spanish with a bot.
No, I mixed with something else. I tried Duolingo, but not the bots. I have another bot on this, but not the Duolingo bot.
But they've been advertising this. So, and others are moving in the same way. Our area, SAP, is doing research on developing bots that support community managers in managing learning communities and that sort of thing. So there's things happening there. Also, you can see here, I find this interesting, this is from Japan. When they train dentists, they operate on robots, and these robots can feel pain. So when you drill a tooth, they can produce tears, they can move their head away. So these are training machines, training partners, available 24/7. So there's things happening there. Roles, processes, tools, infrastructures. There's much talk about new learning platform. You may have heard about learning experience platforms. Josh Merson is talking about this. This is the IE Business School in Madrid, the WOW Room. You may have heard of that. It's like a huge installation with 48 or 64 big screens. Each participant has a big screen. And sort of it's like the top sort of virtual presence experience you can currently have in a business in a business school program, augmented with artificial intelligence. So there's short videos on that. Look at Wow Room and IE Business School. It's really fascinating. There's things happening in terms of automated or semi-automated content creation. So for example, Wildfire and Volday claim that they can produce assessment items from a file that you plug into. So you put in a video, you put in a text, and this machine or the algorithm can process this and can generate test items on this automatically. So they're working on this. So things happening there. Plus different discussion about learning professionals having to take up different roles in the future. Infrastructure architects, curators, diagnosticians, facilitators of e-coaching, and data analysts, and so on and so forth. So there's things happening there. Revenue and value contribution. So probably you're moving away from selling seats in classes to making libraries available. So how do you calculate the costs there? How do you justify the budgets? How do you negotiate budgets? So on and so forth. And something I forgot, governance issues. There's also debate, or there's quite a few things happening in terms of, do we have, if we want to support agile organizations, do we have to move from a hierarchical organizational model to a more holocratic, for example, organizational model? So these are the things that are happening, and that's why we have the idea that we should focus on the changes in the L&D business model if we're going to engage in the next installment of our trend research.
Something like dealing with big data and everything that comes along with it. Is that somewhere in there?
It's here, for example, that you need people that are able to do this, and you need the infrastructures that help you generate the data, integrate the data, work the data. So this is, with that I'd like to end this. Now I would like to look with you at sort of the idea for items that should be, areas and items that should be implemented or relevant, or should be in place in the next installment of the trend research. And this is the other document that you have. It's this one here. Just we have a look at this. So this is our very much workshop here. This is our first draft. This is our current thinking, what we think is relevant. If you look at this table, on the left-hand side you see the areas. So we are usually we will continue asking demographic questions. Then the idea is to have something on mission, vision and strategy, something on governance, something on mode of operation. I'll just race through this real quick, and then we look at items. Culture of learning, target groups and portfolio, learner and customer experience, how this is changing, processes, roles, tools and infrastructures, revenue and value contribution, and I think this is the last I have to check. Yes. So this is the idea for the topical structure of the survey, and now we can delve into this and look at certain items and suggestions for items. How do you want to do this? Do you want to read through this real quick and then we have an open discussion on this? Do you want to focus on a specific area?
Maybe I would suggest that we first take a few minutes to have a look to it, and just study it, and then maybe you could first start with some general impressions, and then maybe we can go more in detail if
that's
topic one.